Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new and haven't subscribed yet, kindly do that and I'll be super excited about it. And if you have already subscribed to my channel, then welcome back to this video. Now in this video I'll be teaching basic coding tips and tricks. This is a new series that I want to start on this channel where I'll be teaching some basic stuff when it comes to coding. Ideally, it's going to be general across all programming languages, but I'll be using Python as the programming examples, right? If I had to do anything programming, I'm going to be using Python for those examples, but ideally it's going to be a general thing which you can implement in other programming language. Now in this particular video, I want us to look at why you need to write clean code and what are some of the tips that you need to look out for when you want to write clean code. Now, writing clean code is essential in every programmer's life. There are two main reasons that I take out when it comes to writing clean code, and one is the fact that when you are able to write clean code and come back to that particular block of code in the next 5 months to a year, you should be able to still understand the code without too much stress. Sometimes you can write a code and come back in a month's time to look at that block of code and be like, yo, what did I do here? You have to kind of like read through everything to really understand why you did this query, why you did this thing, why you did this. And all boils down to writing clean code, right? If you write your code as clean as possible, you are likely to get what you did in that block of code in the shortest time than you having to write your code anyhow and have to stress through to understand what you actually wrote. And the second thing is that we understand that you're writing code for the computer to understand and compile and give you whatever results you wanted out of writing that code, right? But it's not only about the computer. Sometimes you write this code and you need someone else to come and collaborate with you, or you're in a company, there are other developers around. uh, you have these developers coming on board who have to either come and maintain your code or add new features to it. So if, assuming you write your code and you share the code with me, I need to know what this logic does in order to use that logic or that function, whatever, to implement something new that I'm going to do. And if I don't understand your code, it would mean that I'll have to call you. And if you're not available at that time, I would have to wait until you're available for you to explain stuff to me. But if you write your code clean and I get to look at the function, even the name alone should tell me what the function is doing, and then I'll just have to, follow suit, and then, it just makes life simple for onboarding new developers, right? So these are some basic stuff that you need to know about writing clean code. So that being said, we would go straight into VS Code and then look at some basic tips that you need to look out for if you want to start writing clean code. That being said, let's get straight away. We are currently in VS Code now, which I have already defined some functions on there. And the first thing I want us to look at is to look at naming conventions, right? And with naming conventions, let's look at naming styles first. So if you look at my first function, I have a function called add numbers, right? And this function takes two parameter 1 and parameter 2. Now, if assuming that I gave you this function without you having to see line 5 and line 6, which is the main logic of the function, you can easily tell that, okay, this function is supposed to add numbers together and return the result, right? So that is one thing you should know about writing clean code, where all your functions are named to what they are supposed to do. So you can have in some codes where they are ideally supposed to add numbers together, but then you will see that it is just named add. right? Let's just name add like this. And what am I adding? I'm adding two strings. Are they strings? Are they numbers? Are they what at all am I adding, right? So if you add numbers, it makes it easier. And these are some basic stuff that you need to know, right? You don't just say add, but maybe be precise, be clear on that. Say add numbers, right? Now that is how to name stuff in programming, right? For functions, right? And then now the naming style. If you look at my function, you would realize that everything is in lowercase, and since there are two separate words, I separated them with an underscore, and this is a guide out there that every programmer, a Python programmer uses. And if you don't do this, I think you should start doing this where your functions should be in lower cases and separate words separated with underscore. And always make sure your functions are named according to what the function is supposed to do. Now, the next thing is looking at variables. Variables are basically named according to what they hold. So let's take, for instance, line 5. When you look at line 5, you would see that it's adding these two numbers, 1 and 2, and then returns a result for you. So if you look at line 5, I have named my variable result outcome, because that's going to be the outcome of these two numbers when they are being added together, right? And if you look at the naming style as well, I have two separate words, and the two words joined together by an underscore. That is how you should name your variable, and they should be meaningful, right? You can't just name this anyhow. It has to be meaningful as to what value it holds. It holds the result of adding the two parameters together. Now, the third thing I want us to look at is to look at constants, right? These are constants. And what are constants? Constants are basically values that are unchangeable in runtime, right? So I have a constant here. When you look at my constants carefully, they are all written in uppercase and separated with an underscore, and that is a guide that every Python programmer follows if they want to write a constant, and that is how it's being used here. So if this constant was supposed to be in another file somewhere, a new programmer who takes my code is not supposed to go and ask, what is this actually? Once they look at this, they should be able to tell that, oh, this is a constant. That's why it's written in capital letters and separated by an underscore. If you look at this thing over here, VS Code is even saying it's a constant over here. Do you see? So these are some benefits of following the basic guide of writing clean code. The new developer is not wouldn't have to stress himself. You just look at this and knows that, okay, this is a constant, this is a function, right? Now let's look at other ways of writing the function in terms of naming it according to what it does. When you look at line 9, I have a function, right? And the function name is really long, and it's really long because I want it to be meaningful enough as to what it does, right? These functions just do a little, they don't do enough, but times comes where your function is going to hold a whole lot of code, and that's where you would really see the benefit of naming your function according to what it should be. Do you get it? Good. So I have this new function on line 9, which is called inherit order function and divide results, right? So what this function basically does is to inherit this function here. The result that comes out of it is going to be divided by the parameter that is being passed in here. So if you read the code in line 11, which is the logic of the function, it calls line it calls the function up here and passes in the two variables that it requires, and then when it returns the value, the result, it divides that result with the parameter that is being passed in here. And if you read this function name, you could tell that, oh, okay, yes, inherit other function and divide result, and that's it. That's how simple it is, right? So it makes reading your code more easier and understandable, right? It makes your code easier to read and understandable by someone else who would want to take your code and work on. Good. So I hope this is clear. If this isn't clear, you could put that in the comment section